Go for it.
We got a ton of questions for you. I need some help. Lyle and I were having a conversation this morning talking about the Luis Castillo outing the other day and the 22 inches of arm side run, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Obviously, you had something very similar as a pro.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Same stuff.
It's totally normal to have that much run. Two-seamer or first of all, two-seamer or four-seamer? What is that?
So one was a 2, one was a 4. So I actually went back and watched the video, and the reason I know this is because I zoomed in and then I made sure of it. Spoke to Woody and said, "Hey, do you know if it was a 2-seam grip or a 4-seam grip?" And you can zoom in when you see the ball out of his hand. One was a 2. If I had to remember, the first one, the one in the second inning, was a 2, and that's just purely from zooming in on the camera, not because of StatCast class, because sometimes they mess it up. So one was a 2-seam, kind of ran away from him. He was trying to go in regardless. And one thing with Luis Castillo, it's been situation talking about his fastball where he lost a little bit of that, and this isn't a direct him saying this, but lost a little bit of that confidence with it, and so they just tried to make the hits and the misses bigger. In other words, like, all right, let's set up inside, let's see what that ball does, and that's what we saw against Austin Slater that second inning, and then the I think it was the 5th inning. That was a 4-seam grip, and it just has that run. But sometimes he throws a 4-seam and it has that extra little run on it, especially because he's low 3/4. He's kind of east to west mechanically.
Right.
Either way, regardless. Nah, I mean, that was filth.
So here's the second question we have. And I think I understand how all the other pitches work. I understand how a slider works, right? The spin on the slider and the changeup and the way you can take, put pressure on the ball. Why does changing your grip on a 2-seamer make it sink and run to the arm side? Why does it work that way?
Look, every fastball is kind of different, to be honest with you. Like every fastball, depending on the where you release the ball, if you pronate, if you supinate on it. Like for example, the kid Davis Martin who pitched against Luis Castillo, he's a supinator. So that's why he got that kick changeup. That's why he throws a cut fastball. But with the seams in regards to Luis Castillo, a lot of it has to do with, not to get too crazy here, but seam shifted wake on that pitch. So if he goes a 2-seam, same arm slot, same release point in regards to when the foot plants and then everything happens after that. Mm-hmm. But having the seams the way when they cut through the Magnus effect on the seams, what happens is it starts to shift, and so he can get a ton of run with that 2-seam, and then with the 4-seam, he still gets run on the 4-seam, but just not as much, and he can command that pitch at the top of the strike zone without getting away from him. So a lot of with Luis Castillo, obviously the arm slot, and he's a big time pronator. That's why he's usually has a really good changeup. My favorite pitch of his, which he's put in the back pocket, I feel like, ever since he's gotten to the Mariners. But he can get that good pronation, and then that 2-seam the seams just has that wake through the air and just take off. So yeah, it's it's crazy, and each and every year they find out different fastball profiles that guys just keep figuring out. And I didn't have this information when I was pitching. If I did, I would have won a Cy Young, fellas.
That's right.
Of course.
Obviously. Right? Can you just remind people of your baseball story? We had Angie tell hers the other day because I'm not sure everybody knows or knew. I mean, Angie playing pro ball and the whole story she has. Growing up in Australia and finding your way to the major leagues, I know you've told the story many times, but for those who don't know it, can you give the short version of how you ended up here?
Yeah, so real quick, the short version, I got into baseball. I was 12 years old, and I got access to the 1993 World Series, the Toronto Blue Jays. That was my team videotapes, and I was hooked, man, absolutely hooked. First time I ever walked into the Rogers Center, I was looking around, just had one of those moments like, how did I end up here? But basically, played when I was a kid, when I was a teenager in Australia, and kind of oblivious to, he had enough comments on the car rides home from mum, saying, hey, look, if you want to play in the big leagues, you go ahead and do it. And I'm telling you, if you grew up in the States, you'd be like, oh, it's really hard to do. So I signed for $30,000 with the Mariners when I was 17 years old and came over here, and I had a dad who was just basically saying, look, you're going to be the first one in the weight room, the last one to leave. Brock Huard's a big fan of the Sandhill Warrior, my dad. From filling in with him. He loves the Sandhill Warrior.
I'm going to train in this. I'm going to train in this with the Sand Warrior one day. It's my dream. Your dream was the big leagues. Your dream was the big leagues. My dream is to be with the Sand Warrior.
That's right. Sandhill Warrior.
Sandhill Warrior.
Right.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I call him Sand Warrior.
Craig Shipley have something to do with that? Was he a part of that journey?
Yeah, you know what? Dave Nielsen, Craig Shipley, they were the only two, and Graham Lloyd. I can't forget him.
Yeah.
I'm not saying. But you'd get a little bit of access to them. They'd pop up on like primetime sports channels. Like, oh man, these dudes, like Graham Lloyd pitching the World Series in the mid '90s for the Yankees was huge. I'm like, man, if this dude can do it. I know he's 6'20", but man, like he's left-handed. I'm left-handed, so that was a big one, especially those three guys getting a chance to watch them. But no, it was one of these ones, guys, where like. You guys know how it goes. You get to a place, and if you have that hunger, to you, and you have a situation where you're just going to try and outwork everyone, good things happen. And there was times in my career too, man. I'll be honest with you, I'll be the first to tell you, the subpar career in the big leagues, and a lot of that was because I got too comfortable. I lost that hunger, and then you recapture it, and then moments happen. Even more recently, some things happen, and you get that hunger back, and you don't never get comfortable. So, hopefully, you guys can understand my accent when I tell you that whole story. But that's kind of how it went down. It was good.
You've been in this organization, Ryan Rowland-Smith, the hyphen with us. I'm understanding every last word of yours today. I just screwed up the Sandhill Warrior myself.
I even got pronate, pronator and supinator. We're definitely on top of that today.
You've been around this organization for decades and decades. I argued yesterday with Jeff Passan that I can't remember in my lifetime of doing this job for 16 years, the organization overall is healthy as it is. What they've got in the farm system, what they've got in young stars, what they've got in just the overall totality of the organization. Can you remember a time where, just from a talent standpoint, from Modesto, heck, even the instructional league in Arizona, all the way to Tacoma, that it's felt like this? Yeah,
well, it's hard to compare to my rookie ball year. I'm talking 2001. We're out, by the way, I know obviously they won 116, I get all that. From a minor league standpoint, we were stacked, man. It was crazy, up and down. And so I've always had in the back of my mind thinking about obviously how important that is, and some of these teams too that everyone talks about, especially in the last decade, half a decade, about you're either rebuilding, you got this stacked farm system, or you just spending money and going for it. It's not there's no in between. Well, there really kind of is an in between, and when you have a situation where you get to spring training and everyone was disappointed with the off season in regards to the fact that the team decide to go kind of the avenue they went, and then you turn around. No one wants to hear about having a top 3 farm system. It doesn't matter who you ask. But when you hear that, you're like, hold on a minute. There's some big time health and foundation here with this organization. And not to mention too, just on that, while we're sitting on that, Logan Evans, classic example. The kid was a 12th rounder. The fact that you can draft a kid, you're doing something right. In a 12th round situation, come in and he's got some stuff, or as Aaron Goldsmith calls it, he's stuffy, and you turn him into, and you can, as a minor league system, turn it into, hey, listen, you have to pitch, you have to take this mantra of dominating the zone, and it sounds super cliche, but it clicked for him, filling up the strike zone. You have this kind of pitching development they have, and now all of a sudden the offense is carrying this team on a major league level. So now all of a sudden you're at the top of the AL West. Offense is happening. You have this farm system, which guys are now ready. There was a little bit of a gap there in the farm system. Guys are now ready to contribute. And I'm telling you too, look, this team is going to get to October off their starting rotation, and it's about to turn a corner here. When George Kirby comes back, they've got some decisions to make once he comes back, and then Logan Gilbert, and then when Bryce Miller gets healthy. This is going to be a pitching team. Offense doesn't have to be a juggernaut, but man, there's some healthy things happening offensively for this organization too.
One of the things I like about your time here in Seattle as a player is that you were on one of the great chemistry teams that was probably exceeded its talent level in 2009, and one of the all-time terrible chemistry teams just the next year that just tanked immediately with a couple of guys that really blew apart the clubhouse, etc. Because I love that dichotomy that you have and the experience with both sides of it. As you look at this group and the leadership and all that, and I heard you talking about Donovan Solano the other day, I want to come back to that in a minute. What are you seeing kind of building chemistry and leadership-wise in this group?
Yeah, man, you have a situation where guys that aren't even in their age 30 season yet, who are the quote-unquote leaders of this team. In other words, you got a Cal Raleigh. We all know about his leadership, man. I mean, you don't even have to be inside the clubhouse in the afternoon to see that. I mean, even last night too. Casey Legamina, classic example. He's all over the map. He's pitching in the first inning. He's trying to match the same intensity. And I didn't want to go on about it during the game yesterday, but I'm watching, and then Cal, boom, picks up on it right away out there, and you can just kind of see, the non-verbals from him, what with the message he was sending. And then what does Casey Legamina do? He's like, yeah, you know what, I am good. I am all good here. And he just goes on the attack after that. Logan Evans, his first start. Logan Evans shakes off a couple times. Cal, boom, straight out there. So from that catching standpoint, where you're touching obviously the offense in those hitting meetings, from a situation where you touching the pitching, the rotation, the bullpen, everyone. That's massive. And you're talking about a core of players right now, and you talk about the health. Brock talked about the health of this organization. A core of players aren't even in their age 30 season who are leading this team, and they're having success doing it. It's not like Cal's rolling out hitting 180 and he's got 2 home runs, but he's like a loud voice and he's all about team. No, he's doing it on the field too, man. He's up there, top 3 in home runs. It's insane. So that speaks volumes. And again, I never got a chance to play in a World Series, and I've talked to so many people who get deep into the playoffs, and every single time, this is the most individual team sport on the planet. It's not like football, basketball, where you have to communicate on the field. You really don't. There's very little of that. However, you're in 162 games, 180 days of a season. That team chemistry, you'll never hear a player who gets to the playoffs talk about, team chemistry kind of sucked, but we were really talented. None of them say that. If you want to get into October, every single one of them, they all say the reason we got deep, the reason we're in this position is because what happens inside that clubhouse. And they've got a bunch, I'm not going to call them kids anymore, but they're late 20s carrying this clubhouse. It's awesome.
What have you learned about yourself, Ryan, doing this much more regularly in the booth as an analyst?
Oh, man. Well, the relationship with players is really, really important. I think getting out on the road, being around them way more helps, and you have to respect that, obviously. And not saying that I'm going to, sugarcoat anything whatsoever. And I know, Mike talked about comments about Donovan Solano, and you should have tread lightly. So you have to have that balance between, people, sometimes they get upset with performance, and I respect that, and I'm just right along there with you. But at the same time, you have to understand that there's a relationship you have with players, and you have to understand what these players go through. So I think doing this, every single day, no one's more critical of me doing this job than me. I'm telling you right now. And Brock, I'm sure you're the same way. And Mike, even listen to the radio when you suck at something.
No, not really. No, I'm not critical at all.
That's where you two
After every show, like, yep, nailed it.
That's where you two diverge. That's where the trail goes.
Well, people tell
another perfect 4 hours. Perfect. Don't even need to work at this. This is amazing how easy it is.
I can't help it that Brock sucks. I mean, what am I going to do? I did a perfect show.
But listen, like, I don't know how you guys are. I can't go back. If I say something bad, I'll write a note, but I have a tough time going back. I cringe listening to it. But I have to go back and listen to it. If I rush or I stutter or say something or it just didn't even make sense, I go back, I write it down. I write the inning down, and I ask someone at Root Sports, hey, can you clip that out for me?
Right.
But I'm doing better right now, saying, you know what, I said something really good then. Hey, how about we go back and listen to that? It's the same as a player. So I'm trying to take the same approach as a player as I am broadcasting, especially day in, day out. You're trying to get better and better each time you do it.
Tell Shannon to keep it down over there. Shannon,
hush.
We have Shannon on enough. Shannon, keep it down over there. We're trying to conduct an interview, for God's sake.
Shannon, they told you to keep it down.
Yeah, that's right. Ryan, it's hard enough to understand you. We need to get Shannon. There's Gary. Hey, Gary, look at this. Oh, what a party we're having here.
That's right.
On the Solano thing, which by the way was a great point. Tell me kind of what you're seeing there, because it's come up a little bit. A couple days ago, he had a 295 OPS. That is I went back. Some of your old teammates, guys like Sean Figgins, they didn't get there, right? I mean, Colton Wong didn't get there. Tommy LaStella didn't get there. Who else did we bring up? AJ Pollock didn't get there. I mean, that's a tough number. And yet, you kind of convinced me with what you said. Like, the at-bats have been a little bit better. So what are you seeing with him on and off the field?
Yeah, and look, he'll be the first to tell you that, man, this has been a tough year. Just like Mitch Garver was the first to say, as the season got on, said this is the toughest year I've had. Look, the reason I brought him up in that situation is because when you talk to a team like the Padres, I'm talking to Brian Esposito, the bench coach, and then a couple other, and then Ruben Niebla, who was standing by him, saying, "Oh yeah, hey, you guys, there's really no lane you can pick." In other words, we're a situation where we can bunch a bunch of lefties together. Because Rowdy comes out, pinch hits, and it's Donovan Solano. I'm sitting there in the back of my mind, just like everyone else, saying, "Hold on, Solano, he's struggling. Look at those numbers. Look at the OPS. Really?" But then all of a sudden they start singing his praises in regards to what he does off the field and some of his approach and everything else, and his track record and everything else. So in that regard, and this goes back to just being in the booth, you want to give someone the benefit of the doubt. And so what you try and do is glass half full with him. And I've noticed of late, the approach has just changed a little bit. I don't want to be in his face saying, "Hey man, what have you changed?" I mean, Mitch Garver's the same way. Look, he struggled last year. We all know that. He struggled at the beginning of this year. He's starting, if you notice, he's starting to swing and he's not so passive anymore. I think with Solano, he had that really long at bat in San Diego. So you're trying to give guys saying, look, you got to remember, we've got 6 months of baseball right here. Situation when you see him come up to pinch hit, and you're probably scratching your head like, why we, left on left, I get that, but Donovan Solano, what's the deal? But there's stuff that happens behind the scenes there where you want to give him the glass half full. So you're starting to see a little bit more of, you had that hit that ball in the left field last night, you're starting to see a little bit more of a pattern there where maybe it's a physical, mechanical adjustment he's made that we don't see. He's not going to talk about until he rattles off 20 hits. But just watching, some of the confidence and some of the things you see in between pitches where there's not this sort of deflation when all of a sudden he misses a pitch he can handle and he steps back in and all of a sudden he locks eyes with the pitcher and you're like, oh man, hey, there's something different here. And so you're starting to see that a little bit with Solano, and you know what, hopefully it pays off. Maybe it doesn't, who knows, but just hearing good things from him, what he does with the other players around him from that leadership standpoint, it was nice to hear from the Padres side because he obviously was a Padre.
Last thing, your buddy Angie was on with us earlier in the week and just kind of comparing and contrasting a little bit. And we're 50 games in, and this is nothing against the previous regime or Scott's voice or all the things that he did and helping to build this healthy organization, but just kind of comparing and contrasting as you're around him at this level now. What is Dan's voice? Kind of what is the new coaching? What is the new hitting coach? What have the new voices most tangibly done to what you can see with your eyes?
Well, it's interesting. We do the media scrum every day with Dan Wilson, and he's he has a little bit of that old school to him where he's not going to tell you anything extra than what he needs to tell you. Like we're like, hey, look, George Kirby, is he coming back or what?
He might not even tell you that. 2 days ago, he told us that Jorge Polanco was fine. I mean, clearly that's not the case. Yeah, he was pinch hit for in the ninth inning last night, 8th inning.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of that sort of, you don't have to be so transparent. However, I think the transparency in the clubhouse, you can totally tell, man. He just has this way about him where if I was a player, I could walk into his office if I gave up a bunch of runs, which, trust me, there's plenty of times where I wanted to walk in and just have a sit down with the manager and just talk it over. He has that platform in his office. Whereas, look, I know how it was with Scott last year, if that was the case, but just speaking from Dan Wilson in regards to that. And then I think he's a little bit more, hey, listen, by the way, Kevin Seitz, what a huge ad he was, man. He really was in this offseason. Hearing from people from the Braves, just shocked that he's not with the organization anymore and saying, you guys have got a good one. And I was like, oh yeah, he's just kind of helping out Edgar. Well, no, I mean, him and Edgar have just been such a good match, both speaking the same language. So that's been huge. I think Dan kind of, not saying he's hands off, but it's a situation hitting meeting. I don't even know if Dan's sitting in those hitting meetings. It's not this situation where he has to oversee that, where he just has that trust level. And obviously Pete Woodworth, man, he's like, I call him, he's a bit of he's the doctor, man. He's the guy who can translate messages better than anyone from a pitching coach standpoint. So he has that, Dan has that thing about him where you have that confidence, you can be transparent, you can be honest with him, and it's not going to come back and bite you because, your confidence is down, your conviction's down or something like that, or, hey, my elbow's feeling like this. He has that vibe to him, whatever that is, but he doesn't tell us whatever it happens in the clubhouse, but yeah, it's they got a good thing happening right now.
Hey, I was telling the story, Ryan, before early this morning when I was saying how good it was to have you on today. two things. Well, the bigger one, you came to Seattle and bought a house here. Incredibly rare, and most players don't do that. They don't immediately set down roots and become a part of the community. And it happened to be in the same neighborhood that I live in now as well. But just that feeling of, hey, this is home, this is community. I think it's special. I think it's unique. I think it's one of the reasons you're as well liked here as you are. It's one of the reasons everybody loves you. We love listening to you on the broadcast, love listening to you doing the games. Tomorrow you'll be on with Bump and Stacy as you are every week on the station. We love having you, and just wanted to just say thanks for all that you do for the Mariner baseball, Mariner broadcast, and talking baseball in this town.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I struggle with some of the compliments, but it means a lot, coming from you guys. And again, obviously addressing the elephant in the room. There's some stuff that went on social media, last couple of days that, I had some fun with. And you know what? That's just the way it goes. And I love this place. This is my home now. And I felt like that coming back. I mean, the organization welcomed me back in 2016 after I pushed them hard to get on TV, and this. Nowhere else has ever felt like home ever. So it's good to be part of this community, man. I love it, and I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, you didn't look at home when I saw you in Pawtucket that day. You seemed like a fish out of water. That was not home. This is home for Ryan Rowland-Smith. Yes. And we love you, man. Thanks so much for coming on with us. Man. Enjoy the game today, and we'll talk soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
All right, there you go. The great Ryan Rowland-Smith, and I mean all of that. Ryan is truly one of the best people I know in this.